Phantasmic Journey podcast being brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Colin Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon. Your journey begins now. As you walk the path and both the known and unknown, what do we understand? What answers are we trying to achieve? Are there answers? Tonight, we gather to find more verity. Join us as we take the journey into the unknown.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Phantasmic Journey podcast. We are coming to you live from the PGH Studios. Syndication is brought to you in part by our partners at WGKC, Radio Live, and Live 365. You can listen to the live broadcast via the Live 365 app for the Apple or the Android phone. But if you have your choice and you would rather use your PC, go to www.live365, search for WGKC Radio Live, and you'll be able to listen to the show. So, what kind of weird, wacky, and strange things going on in the paranormal these days, Paula?
Well, first of all, we're going to do our National Day of.
Okay.
Today is National Red Wine Day.
I thought it was Rainbow Day.
It is Rainbow Bridge Day.
Well, how can you have two different ones?
There are several, actually, today. But we also have Rainbow Bridge Remembrance.
Okay.
And it's about all of our animals that have passed away before us in our past. We both have several, with us recently losing one of ours in May, which was Bocephus.
Yep, the paranormal puppy.
Today is also National Power Rangers Day.
I never really got into Power Rangers.
I've watched a few shows, but I've never have actually really watched.
Yeah, no, not me.
Today is National Bow Tie Day.
So somebody just was bored one day and said, you know what, I'm going to make this blah, blah, blah National Day.
Yeah, today is National Bow Tie Day.
Wow.
And then the last one for today is National Cherry Turnover Day.
Okay. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. And on to the paranormal realm. There has been a lot of anniversaries of things this past week, so I kind of put a cluster of all of it together.
Okay.
Because there has been a lot in this past week. I guess the week of October 25th is a lot for anniversaries for a lot of things.
All right.
And the first thing on our list is about the War of the Worlds. Have you ever read that book when you were in school?
I've read the book, I listened to the radio show, and then I've seen the movie, and I believe I have the new one with Tom Cruise.
Well, the War of the Worlds originally happened in 1938.
Yep.
As part of a Halloween program for October 30th of that year, CBS aired an adaptation of H.G. Wells' 1898 science fiction story, The War of the Worlds. Orson Welles narrated in his version of the invasion of Earth by Martians. News bulletins were simulated for the first 40 minutes of the hour-long broadcast. Americans who has missed the beginning of the show that explained that the broadcast was fictional panic and fear of alien landing spread like wildfire. As listeners told their friends and neighbors that Earth was being invaded, many more listeners tuned in until the nation was abuzz with panic. Critics bitterly denouncing the broadcast as a cruel, irresponsible hoax, but all the press only made Orson Welles that much more famous and helped further his career. On October 31st, 1968, a new adaptation of the story was played by the Buffalo, New York radio station. In spite of extensive advertising to preclude a panic, some listeners once again fell for the story and believed the Earth was being invaded by Martians.
It was believable. That's all I got to say. All the sound effects that were on there, I mean, it sounded like it was real and legitimate. So a lot of people believed it.
Another great hoax that happened, this happened in 1835, and it's mentioned in the introduction. This hoax was a combination employed by a reporter, Richard Locke, to improve sales for the newspaper and to make fun of some of the contemporary astronomers who claim to
Lose your place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Contemporary astronomers who claim to have found signs of life on the moon. The main astronomer who purportedly made the observation was a real-life scientist whose name was used in the articles without his permission.
Oops.
In a fascinating side story, Edgar Allan Poe had published his own version of the moon hoax, The Unparalleled Adventures of One Hand Fall. A couple of months before Lockheed, he describes the use of a hot air balloon as the means to travel to the moon. Poe also published a series of moon hoax stories in 1844 in which the astronaut used a gas-filled balloon to get to the moon. Oddly enough, this series was published in The Sun, a good source to read about the whole thing in Matthew Goodman's The Sun and the Moon in 2008. And then we go on to, let's see, we'll skip ahead on this. Another famous thing that happened this past week was the U.S. moon landing in 1969.
Supposedly.
Well, everybody has their opinion.
I have mine.
It was recreated. On the other hand, thousands, if not millions of people worldwide believed to their core that the whole thing was a hoax.
Yep.
A kind of a Hollywood production to bamboozle everyone. Now, if NASA were to claim Bigfoot was found on the moon, they might believe that.
Oh, snap.
And speaking of Bigfoot, that is another phenomenon that has happened in the past week. The anniversary of the first Bigfoot in 1958.
The one that got caught running in his stride or whatever.
Not to be confused with the monster truck by the same name. Bigfoot, or the other name for a Sasquatch, or whatever you prefer to call him, was a minor mythological creature who supposedly lived in the remote forest of North America, especially in the northwest area of the U.S. In 1958, tracks made by giant human-like feet were found at a logging site in Northern California. These were photographed and preserved as a plaster cast impressions. The floodgates were open and Bigfoot sightings, tracks, hairs, and stories have been rampant ever since.
Oh yeah, of course.
Television and movies are filled with Bigfoot stories, and the beef jerky producer Jack Link had an ongoing campaign of Sasquatch-related television commercials. In 2002, the family of the man who had created the fake Bigfoot track in 1958 revealed that the whole thing was a hoax, and they even showed the fake footprint.
Yeah, it was a footprint. It was a piece of wood with the foot with a 2x4 attached to it.
Other evidence of Bigfoot fraud included a man who in 2012 was hit and killed by two cars as he was wearing a Bigfoot costume in an attempt to generate sightings. The driver of the cars were teenage girls, 15 and 17, who were left traumatized. Something to hoax can be dangerous. And then if you have another anniversary, guess what other strange creature that had an anniversary this past week?
I have no idea.
In 1934, the famous photo of Nessie.
Oh, jeez.
Swimming the picture at Loch Ness in Scotland. was in 1975, revealing to be a hoax by Christian Sperling, the man who took the photo. His story began the subject of a 1999 book called Nesty, The Surgeon's Photograph Exposed. The amazing thing is that despite the confession, as many people as ever believed in the monster are still convinced the photo is real.
Oh, yeah. Let's go back to Bigfoot. He is the #1 reigning champion of hide and seek.
Of hide and seek, huh?
Yeah. You have a better chance of seeing a real orb than Bigfoot.
But anyway, I think I've pretty well...
That's it?
Unless you want to talk about the mermaid stories.
No, I'll pass on mermaids.
But I have a lot of anniversary of stuff was this week. Anniversary of the mermaid. The Cardiff giant was this week.
Jeez.
Yeah, that one's interesting. That guy got to the point he built a 10-foot long giant out of a big tree and secretly buried it in his New York backyard. And then had later dig it up later saying, "Oh, look, I found a giant buried in my backyard."
Okay.
Visitors paid a hoaxer 50 cents to see the wonder, and circus founder P.T. Barnum's offered Hull $50,000 to buy it. Hull eventually sold the giant for $23,000. And it was a tree, and it was a giant built out of a tree.
Wow, and he buried it.
And he buried it in his backyard, and then like 6 months later, he dug it up and said, "Oh, look what I found." P.T. Barnum, you know, the big famous P.T. Barnum circus. Yeah. He wanted to buy it for one of his sideshow extravaganzas.
And it's a tree.
And it's tree.
Awesome.
Made out of gypsum.
All right. For everybody that's tuning in, our special guest tonight is the creator and the star of the hit web series Ghost Biker Explorations. She's an experienced paranormal investigator who has turned her passion for photography, history, and urban exploration, and of course motorcycles, into a unique and popular show that highlights legends, mysteries, and the unexplained. Growing up in Robbins, Tennessee, small town nest in the Appalachian Mountains and about an hour away from the closest metropolitan area. Her immersion into the folklore, ghost stories, and mysteries began at an early age through reading library books and exploring abandoned locations. Her interests were further fostered through long conversations with her 90-year-old grandmother, who would tell her stories about ghosts and legends from the past. I am talking about Miranda Young of Ghost Biker Explorations. How are you doing this evening, Miranda?
I'm doing well. How are you, Gavin?
Oh, after listening to all these anniversaries and stories, I'm just giddy.
A lot going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bigfoot and Nessie and some dude that actually carved a tree to look like a giant and buried it in his backyard, digs it up 6 months later. Behold, a giant! Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is like probably the most impressive bio I have ever seen in my entire life. So much on here that Paula had to break stuff down, and she has a cheat sheet for it.
Well, you know, it gives you a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I do see here that you earned a degree from Middle Tennessee University, began a career in marketing, graphic design, and photography. So,
Yes, sir.
What led you to get into the paranormal? I mean, like, how long have you been a ghost hunter?
Well, you know, like everyone probably says, you know, they've been into it since they were young. You know, I had an interest in it for a long time since I was a kid, but I really got into it, and I guess officially became an investigator, or started investigating back in 2013. And it all started because of my photography background. Mm-hmm. I was working for a company in Chattanooga, And one of the guys from HR, he'd seen my background, and he approached me about looking at some pictures. And because I'd worked at Olin Mills before I started at that company.
Oh, okay.
And so he said, I've got some odd pictures that you might be interested in looking at. So he didn't tell me he was a paranormal investigator at the time, but brought me the pictures, and they had gone on some different investigations, and they wanted me to look at them and try to debunk or explain some of the phenomena that was happening in the pictures. And so I went in, looked at a couple pictures, and he just kept bringing me more. Some of them were pictures that people had sent in to have them look at, and some of them were from investigations. And so to pay me back for helping him out, he invited me to go on an investigation with him. And it was at a local restaurant, and it was myself and the lead investigator and then the co-founder of that team. And I took my sister-in-law with me, and we had a lot of luck that night. A lot of Class A EVPs. I was touched. We had a lot of different activity with some of the different tools they had, and it just kind of spiraled down from there. They continued giving me pictures, and I went on another investigation. They invited me onto the team, and I was a member of that team up until last year. Whenever I started doing I've done my solo thing for a while, but when I officially created Ghost Biker Explorations, and just been doing it ever since.
So with photography, you were actually able to decipher from like lens flares and camera malfunctions, flash, and all that stuff. So you're able to debunk, 100% of the photos?
I wouldn't say 100%. I'm able to debunk a lot. For myself, I guess we all kind of, as investigators, I guess we kind of have our go-to evidence that is convincing for us. And because of my background, and because I can, debunk a lot of the things when it comes to photography, that's not one of the pieces that I rely heavily on, but I developed, and this is just for myself, it's kind of an 11-point system that whenever I'm going through my photography or someone else's, that I do to each image, because certain things are going to react a certain way. In a sense, I always keep the original image, but I will go in and, in a sense, try to destroy the image. Because, certain things, if it's a true shadow figure, shadows react a certain way whenever I do certain tests to them. Obviously, dust and bugs, those sort of things, they kind of have certain characteristics when it comes to the photography or the videos. Those sort of things. So it's kind of helped me. I've like I said, it's kind of an 11-point system that I go by, and my philosophy: if in doubt, throw it out. And I don't. I kind of became the bad guy when I was on the team, because they would send stuff, and a lot of the time I was, I believe it to be this. And too, one of the things that I always do, because I love photography so much, and I'm taking a lot of, urbex type pictures and stuff. I will go in when I'm on an investigation and do a run through of the location, trying to take all angles of the room, as well as, the outside, because different things obviously look different at night. Right. And because most people, the not attention span, but most people aren't, they're caught in the moment. It's exciting and things start happening. Most people aren't very observant at times. And so when they go back to look at pictures, they may not remember a certain item that was in the room or the placement of some of the furniture or whatever. So I try to go in, take preliminary pictures before it gets dark as I'm doing my walkthrough, and not so much looking for paranormal activity. Sometimes I'll catch stuff that I can't explain in those pictures during my walkthrough, but most of the time I do that so that when I'm going back later on, I can use it to check myself.
Okay. Would you say taking pictures in color or black and white would be ideal?
For me, either one. I mean, I'll go in and a lot of the stuff I'll turn into black and white. That's one of my steps that I'll do.
Yep.
Black and white, monochromatic, that sort of thing. I'll do a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, not using digital is one of the better ways to do it. But, I mean, that's expensive.
Oh,
and most people, it's not the most mainstream thing to be developing photographs. The beauty of the digital camera is the fact that we can go and take 500 pictures.
Right.
And out of the 500, for me, if I was to take 500 pictures, there might be 5, if even that would have something that would be unexplainable, and that I would look at deeper, because, I mean, and then I also my rule is, you don't want to take a picture way too far away. I've had people send stuff where they've, one of my pet peeves is when somebody sends a picture that they've zoomed in, 3,200%.
Oh, geez.
And they're like, look at these pixels. It's blurry. I don't know what they've cropped into, so I want to know what's going on around in the picture. Or they'll take a picture from across a field and it's a face in a tree, So for me, I've kind of set that to where, I tell people it's like, I mean, don't try to be within a certain distance when you're taking pictures. Obviously, there's times you can't do that because, you're snapping something and you can't control what's going on around you. And there may be something that's occurring across, 100 yards away across a field or whatever. But it just helps to cut some of that error out.
Okay, makes sense. When you're actually looking at a picture of a shadow figure, going through your steps 1 through 11, do any of those filters that you're doing sometimes make your shadow figure cast its own shadow?
It can.
Okay.
Yeah, it can. Like I said, it depends on what you're doing. The filters and apps and stuff that are out now, they can do some crazy things.
Oh yeah.
Just look at this Face app that's out now. But there's a lot, and even when you're working with like HDR and stuff, and using those filters, you can use ones that really bump up the shadow and actually create a glow or a shadow cast around something unintentionally just by changing the filter. Pretty much what I'm doing is not so much on my phone and casting filters, but more so working in Photoshop and adjusting certain elements in the raw image.
Yeah, we actually have a camera app that has been branded to us. It's the Phantasmic camera. What it does, you take a picture, you have to take 3, your beginning, your middle, and your end. And it will take a look at all 3 pictures and see if anything looks out of the ordinary. And if it does, then it sucks the light out and shows you what it captured.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
It's weird, too, the things that we see pull up on that thing. Oh, my God.
And that's, in essence, what I'm doing, just doing manually. Because like I said, I'm trying to essentially destroy the image. Because, again, certain things, it's amazing the things we can pull out when we're pulling out shadow.
Mm-hmm.
But you just can't pull out the shadow, because then you've got other pixels that are going to start interpolating, what's been taken out.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, in a sense, create your own demon, if you will.
Right.
But the thing is, it will. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. It will, in essence, you just kind of it's kind of like you start going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
I've got certain things that I know will react one way when destroyed, but you kind of have to, okay, so this is showing up. Well, let me test what's showing up here by doing this to see how this reacts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it works for me, and it really works for more of a, not so much to prove that something is paranormal, but more so to narrow out
Mm-hmm.
certain things that are kind of taking shape of something else. So it's more of a checks and balance.
Right.
Very rarely will I label something, hey, this is paranormal. More for me, it's more so this is unexplained,
Right.
or unexplainable for me.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh no.
What was your first case that you ever did besides the restaurant and you coming in and working with the teams, being a photographer? What, after you really got into the paranormal, what was your first case? Or can you talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk about it. It would have been when I was with the team. I believe the second investigation that I did, and of course this one was just a one and done, and it was we kind of had to keep it hush hush where we went in, but it was a local school that it was a private school, and they didn't want the word to get out that there had been activity, because being a private school, they thought that it could affect enrollment.
Oh yeah.
But that one was an interesting one. That was probably that was the first investigation with the team. The first case, I guess, was probably, we did so many. I believe Octagon Hall was the first big place that I went with them there in Franklin, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 2-night investigation, which turned into an annual trip, and formed a good relationship with Bear and Billy there at the hall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of my favorites. That was the probably the first in-depth case, and then we did some private cases that I would have obviously labeled Octagon Hall as an investigation, but as far as cases, we had some residences. One of them was a lady who was she'd been seeing a child in her home, and there was also her husband had passed away. She was remarried, and some of the activities she was having, she believed, minus the child, was related to her deceased husband.
Yeah.
And then a church. There was which is kind of an unusual one. That was also a hush hush one, because it was a Baptist church.
Oh wow.
And yeah. And so the activity I got in there was crazy. I mean, it was just continual from the minute I went in, and I haven't really talked about it. Excuse me. I haven't talked about it on my show, but I talk about it sometimes when I'm doing different speaking engagements. I draw, and I will sometimes draw things that I see or that I sense when I go into the location, and was actually able to match up it was pretty crazy. The pastor and secretary was there at that church, and I was able to match up with a child that had passed away.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, that was the first time the second time that I actually did that. And, those two were probably the first actual cases.
Octagon Hall, we know well.
It's good people.
Oh.
Great location.
Oh, yeah, we had some strange things happen there. Let's see. Did the front door ever open while you were there?
The front door, are you talking about like in the actual front of the house?
Yep.
There?
Yep.
Not that I can remember. I've been there, I guess I've gone 6 times now. Not that I recall.
It actually opened 3 times by itself. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to set up a camera. So when I set the camera up, it didn't open again. I'm like, you suck. But
Of course.
and let's see, we had a special guest investigator with us, and we really believe, we call her the ghost magnet because she gets her butt kicked by any location we go to. And this is the first time I have ever experienced this and seen this and filmed it. We were sitting in the library area in the basement, and we were doing an EVP session. Well, there's this book. I don't know if you've seen the book yet, but it has to deal with medical, death, and paranormal.
No, I've not read that one.
Okay,
or seen it.
Well, it's there. It's inside there. And our special guest, Sammy, she knew the book was there, and if we hid it, she knew we had it. So we opened it up and started reading some of the stuff in there, and she got like this real evil look on her face. And then right then and there, I saw a scratch develop on her arm. It went under her Apple Watch and made its way over her her top of her hand. A scratch. And I'm watching it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it actually break the skin, or was it?
No, it was just a scratch. It's just like something with a sharp nail decided to go, But how it went under her watch, I'll never know. That was weird. But
And did she actually feel it?
did she what?
Did she actually feel the scratch?
Oh, yeah. She goes, I just got scratched. And I said, yeah, I know. I watched it.
Wow.
Yeah. I've got pictures of the book and some pages in it. It's really an interesting book. It starts with life and death, goes to medical, to religion, and then, well, actually, no, paranormal is life and death. It's life and death, medical, and religion, all rolled into one book.
So do you feel that whatever attacked her was connected with that book, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
an old book. It's like from the 1920s.
Yeah. And I told Bear I had it in my hand, and it just fell apart. It just fell apart. The cover and a couple pages just fell apart while I'm holding it. He's like, that book has never done that before. I'm like, well, it did.
What made you gravitate to that book? Was it a feeling, or was it just? Because that's a pretty cool book. Just old and everything that it contains. I didn't know if there was something that kind of drove you to that.
She was drove to the book. So we decided to try to find a book before she did.
Okay.
And I found it, and I put it in my back pocket, because that's how small it was.
Okay.
And she knew I had it.
How thick was it? Was it pretty in-depth about each topic, or was it just more of a reference kind of book?
Oh, it was pretty in-depth on its topics. It was kind of like a paperback, but just a little bit thicker, a little bit wider than a paperback. but same amount of pages. Oh, yeah. And she knew I had it in my back pocket. So.
What area was the book located in? Was it, down in kind of the living room area?
No, it was up in the the main table area, but it was in the armoire, in the drawer.
Okay. And it was just, did Bear have any history on it?
No, not really. But he knew that book was there. But
It'd be interesting to know where it came from.
Oh, I know, right? I would like to get my own copy of it because it's really interesting, but after what it did while we were reading it, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah, you never know about some of those old items.
Oh, I know, right? And I got another question for you. Did you notice anything peculiar about the mannequins? As in, did they move?
I never noticed any of them moving. I mean, that's actually one of those places that that I went in and spent a lot of time taking pictures all around just to make sure that nothing moved. Now, I didn't have anything from any of my pictures from when I went in before to what I was looking at later. I can't speak to, what any of the other team had. I didn't see any that had moved, but
right.
No, did you have a case of that happening?
When we were setting up the DVR cameras, Paula went to the little girl's room where there's that girl statue, and you got the bed, you got all the toys and all that.
Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah, she was facing the door. So when you're looking at the DVR camera, she's looking at you, okay? And I'm like, that's just creepy as hell. Well, then later on that night, Paula goes in there. It's pitch dark. I got a camera on her. She's reading a story. She's like, you want to listen to a story? What were you reading?
Oh, it's one of my preschool books.
Oh, okay. It was a preschool book because she's a preschool teacher. And I came up there because the camera battery died, so I had to replace the battery. And when I went up there, I noticed that the statue is now looking at Paula sitting on the bed as she's reading the story. So she actually turned from looking out the doorway to her sitting on the bed while she's reading the story.
Oh, wow. Were you able to get any of that on your video?
I'm sure it's on the DVR. But the other camera was on her while she was reading, so I'm not even sure if that actually had... Did it have the girl in that footage when I set up the tripod?
I don't remember.
And I do know another instance, that other room where the staircase that goes down to the security room, there's a mannequin that's in the bed.
Yes.
Okay, when I walked in there the first time and I was filming, the mannequin's face is facing the wall.
Okay.
I heard a noise that was coming from downstairs, so I kind of moved on over to the side and put my camera over the side of the railing to shoot down the stairs to the security room. And when I turned back around, the mannequin was facing my direction. And yeah, I got that on video. I'm like, okay, time to go. And I walked on out, and then Joel was with us. We had Joel and Chris Houston. They're our camera guys. Joel was laying on the bed that was in the main room where all the mannequins are, where you had the one in the bed, you had the doctor, you had the Civil War, you had the maid sitting in the chair or whatever. I had thermal running at the same time, and you could see that they were kind of sort of shifting. So I left Joel in there with the camera. He was filming, and he's whispering, going, "Dude, they're moving."
Wow.
Yeah, they were moving, and there was no air conditioner on, so nothing was blowing the clothes. They were actually kind of sort of just shifting, just slightly, but you can see it. Yeah, they were moving.
I mean, that's definitely that's definitely a good thing to have in a location, to use for measurement if you can catch it. But man, it sure will scare you when you're investigating and it's in there, but then you walk in and all of a sudden you see something in the corner and it's a damn mannequin. So
right. Well, we were also in Barn 2?
Yeah.
Barn 2 on the property. We heard noise in the corner where there's like a dilapidated drum set that was sitting up there on the second floor of the barn. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Well, she snapped a picture there, and then our other investigator, the one that gets her butt kicked, she snapped a picture. And when they looked at her picture, they didn't have to really zoom in at all, but it shows an apparition of, I call it a Mexican cowboy. He's got a cowboy hat. He's got the scarf around his neck. He's got the broad shoulders and everything. And,
wow.
And the other girl got the profile. She got more of the front. Was it the front side? What did you get?
I got the whole front.
The whole front. Yeah, she got the whole front. And the other investigator got the profile.
Okay, that's cool. Well, when I was up there, I guess it was the second time that I was there. We would always set our base camp up outside in front of the outside kitchen. Excuse me. And we were running cameras going down to the slave graveyard.
Right.
And so I was on the walkie-talkie. I was watching the monitors, and we were kind of talking. We were having issues with getting the cameras straight.
Right.
And so the cool thing was we had the video on as well, or video on me as well as my audio. I always keep, I run different recorders while I'm there, but I always keep a mobile recorder on me,
right,
even when I'm on break or whatever. And I asked the guys; they were having problems hearing me, and so I made some adjustments, and I was like, "Okay, can you hear me now?" And right over my corner, I got this. I mean, it is as clear as can be, Class A. It says "Si, Señorita," and what's cool about that is, obviously being Spanish, but using the correct context because I was single. So it knew, but yeah, calling me Señorita versus what they would call someone that wasn't single. So
right.
So I thought that was really cool.
That's crazy that she got that and you got the Mexican cowboy.
And that was there. I mean, you could hear the accent. And I mean, because it was very thick and authentic. So and just as clear as can be.
Huh. That was interesting. I got one that's going to totally blow your mind. Once again, our special guest investigator, the one that likes to get her butt kicked by. Never fail. Wherever we take her, she gets her butt kicked. We were upstairs, the same place where we got the Mexican cowboy, but we were kind of a little more over where it looked like there were gallows over there, and the floor is disappearing. And she goes, "I'm choking. Something is choking me. It feels like there's a rope around my neck." And all of a sudden, we look at her neck, and you can see there's design. What looks like a rope was around her neck. Okay.
Wow.
So I'm like, dang, you just get your butt kicked everywhere we go. She's like, I know. Well, me and her went downstairs to, I guess, where there were the stables or something. And there was one door that opened, and there was a pallet with a chair on top of the pallet. And I'm like, okay, that's just kind of weird. I walked on in there. I sat in the chair, and I said, all right, I'm just going to sit here, and I'm going to do an ISO. And she goes, okay, well, I'll film you. While I'm sitting there, I noticed something that looked kind of odd in front of me. It was a rope. It was a rope, and it matched the same design that was around her neck.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy there. That's all I got to say. Once this episode comes out, it's going to blow your mind because it was just amazing. Isn't it?
Wow. So do you feel that there is is a negative presence there at Octagon Hall?
There's definitely something that's down in the... there's something definitely down in the library. I think they call him the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he is the dark one, but other than that, I didn't really feel anything dark. What about you?
Oh, not really.
No.
No?
Myself.
Huh.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I've had stuff there. There was one time in particular, it was because we would do a 2-night investigation. There was one night in particular, it was the second night, the energy just felt different.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of felt, I wouldn't say dark, more intense.
Right.
For myself, I've never felt threatened there, or
Mm-hmm.
I know at one time I had heard, that there was something, having gone, multiple times over the years, I went, before when I went, they hadn't opened up the tunnels. And, as they do different things at these locations, the activity seems to kind of change.
Yeah.
The activity changed a little bit when they opened the tunnels. We did a reenactment that night, and it really kind of stirred some things up because it was actually a pretty good reenactment. And, but I never felt anything dark. I think that night I felt something a little more kind of aggressive, like maybe it was aggressively trying to get a reaction. But as for myself, I've never felt anything dark.
Okay.
What is the strangest case you've ever dealt with? Probably the Sun Hill house from when I started doing Ghost Biker. That was one that we covered. It actually ended up covering 3 episodes last season during my first season, and it's been an open and ongoing case over the past year for me. So that's probably the strangest, and I would probably have to say most active case that I've had.
Okay.
If folks haven't seen the first season, they can go back and watch that and see what I'm talking about. I did a live back, that was in May, and it was most definitely, or no, I'm sorry, it was in March, when I did a live, and it was just going to be a 15-minute camera setup. I was going to come on and kind of fill people in on what's been happening there over the last 4 months. I was going to, and I had done a couple announcements, excuse me, I'd done a couple announcements beforehand telling folks that I was going to go over and run some tests, and that I wanted them to, I was going to leave some pre-recorders, or some recorders with pre-recorded questions on them. And I was trying to get people to give me questions that they wanted me to ask. And so I'd gotten these questions. I had recorded the homeowner on there because she hadn't, the house had been abandoned for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And she hadn't been going in there. She had, it was a rental property, and she had lived in there before. Then she rented it out, and it had a hoarding situation.
Oh.
They evicted the hoarder. They evicted her, and the house had been abandoned. Well, not abandoned, but just no one had lived in it for 10 years.
Right.
So, so the homeowner kind of stayed away from it. She's an older lady. And so I had recorded her asking some questions that were very personal to her. And then I had recorded some questions that I had based on activity that I've experienced over the last 4 months. And then also questions that people had sent in. So the goal was that evening I was setting up 4 different cameras, and I was going to go live from the house and set those up, have people kind of tell me, hey, here's where you should set this up. And I'm not kidding. The minute we walked through that door, it was on. It was like it knew we were there. It knew it wanted to interact. The activity from this house, as you said earlier, a lot of the time, you pull a camera out, things go quiet a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my friends that I investigate with. We've got a joke: if you ever get to feeling nervous, one of us will pull our camera out, and it's like, nothing's going to happen now that the camera's out. Mm-hmm. But in that house, it's not it's not like that. Mm-hmm. It likes the attention. It likes the interaction. Mm-hmm. And so I was having just crazy things. It was definitely my most shared and most viewed live, and it circulated for months after that one came out. So it went from being a 15-minute until I think I was there live for an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And then after the cameras went off and I was finishing setup, things got very, very strange. And thankfully we had cameras rolling during that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been, that's probably been the strangest, most intense, and probably the craziest one that I've ever done, all rolled into one.
Okay. Makes sense.
Do you believe some people are more perceptive to paranormal activities than others?
I do. I believe that different people have different gifts, and some people really take that and pay attention to it and try to develop that gift further. I think some people have gifts that maybe just aren't very open to it, and so they don't work with it and just kind of try to ignore it. But I do believe that different people have different gifts of being, some people that I've been around, I've experienced, some people just feel things. Others can seem to see things more. And then there's some that just their senses, as far as like, auditory senses and stuff, they're just, they can just see and hear things that others can't, and they're just on point with it, I definitely believe that there are some people that that aren't sensitive at all. But then I also kind of feel like as a society, because with technology and just how fast-paced everything is, mm-hmm. I feel like we don't really stop and listen a whole lot and pay attention. I think we might actually, as a whole, experience more stuff if we actually were paying attention to it,
Right.
So I think sometimes things happen and we're just all caught up and don't pay attention to it. That may be the case with some people as well.
That makes sense. Let's see. I want to go ahead and jump to what made you decide, or how did you come up with Ghost Biker Explorations, GBE?
Well, that one kind of started as a joke between one of my friends and myself. When I investigated with the team a lot, we would usually try to investigate maybe once a month or once every couple months, depending on the time of year. But for myself, pretty much every weekend I was always out either on my motorcycle or I was either out on the bike or out taking pictures, out, doing some urban exploration, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And, I would always go to these places that kind of had a very interesting story. It might not be paranormal. It might just be an interesting location. And I started posting those pictures online, and people would ask me, well, what's the story behind this? Where is this? What's going on? And I would always try to, even if, if I investigated it, I would put my results out there. Or if I was just, out on the bike or out in my Jeep, I would say, hey, I'm at this location, interesting story about it. And I would tell them. Mm-hmm. And so I was, talking to my co-producer and camera guy, and, we'd be talking about what we did over the weekend. And he's like, you really need to document that and be videoing it, not just taking the pictures, but supplement it with video and supplement it in video when you're investigating. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, that would be kind of cool to do it vlog style. And and then I was talking to another friend, and I was getting ready to go on an investigation with the rest of the team, and I was telling her, I was like, I'm gonna ride my motorcycle, and I said, there's nothing better than riding your motorcycle to an investigation. Right. And I said, you can just call me Ghost Rider. And he's like, I can watch that. And so we just kind of joked about it a little bit for a month or so, and had that conversation with my co-producer Josh. Mm-hmm. And that would actually be pretty interesting because I'm already doing it. And so kept it a secret. We started working on it in March of 2018. Mm-hmm. Kept it a total secret about what I was doing, planned out the investigations, kind of basically planned out the whole marketing behind it, because that's what I do in my adult day job. And waited to release it. I wasn't actually sure if I was going to do it because I was always more comfortable behind the camera than I was in front of it. Mm-hmm. And, started doing it and just really liked the way it was going, and just decided to develop a whole season behind it and release it all at one time, and then just do this whole marketing push. And that's really how it started. Just kind of, I was doing it anyways. Mm-hmm. And I left the team because I was, at the time, I was doing their marketing. I was putting the videos together for them, and investigating, but also doing their PR, if you will, social media and such. Mm-hmm. And I had started doing Ghost Biker, and I just felt like I really wanted to pursue where this was going with Ghost Biker, and I didn't feel that it was fair, that I couldn't give 110% to both, and so I decided to leave the team and investigate it on in the future, if we wanted to, but pursue and see where Ghost Biker was going. Mm-hmm. And allow them to have, try to find someone else to fill my role, because I didn't feel that'd be fair. Right. As much time as I was putting into all that to not be able to devote that. So it just kind of took a life of its own, and it has been growing and keeping me busy and consuming my life for the last, well, like I said, since March 2018, but definitely since the season aired, there has not been a slow time at all.
It's a genius idea. It's creative, and hey, we might be able to see it hopefully sometime on Travel Channel in the near future, huh?
Well, you never know. You just might. It's taken off really quick, and when we did this, what we had in mind was, the goal was, I wanted to get a bunch of episodes together and release as a season, mm-hmm. instead of just releasing, here and there as I got everything done. Right. And actually do marketing and promotion behind it to get people excited about it. Mm-hmm. And, the thought was, I mean, if your listeners haven't watched the show, the thought behind it was I wanted something that was relatively short. But, the way I looked at it, I describe it as, keep it like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover all the important parts, but short enough to still keep interest. And so that's kind of how I modeled it. Was I wanted something that really hit on the history, because that's one of my passions. The paranormal, in my mind, was actually secondary. So it would highlight the travel to this location and talk about the actual town, the actual place. And then it would go into the story that we were trying to cover, and then it would lead into an investigation. And I mean, as you know, when you go to these places, I kind of liken it to you've got your story and your script written, but when you do the investigation, you don't know if your actors are going to show up.
Right. Right.
And so that can make it kind of stressful when you have this really cool and awesome story that you're trying to tell, and you're going to test this, and you worry. It's like, okay, I've got this shot. Is it gonna work out? Right. So it adds a level of stress. But what I try to do is I try to have a dynamic and interesting enough historical story that it will carry the episode if by chance there's not paranormal activity. Now, obviously, we both know, being investigators, that just because you don't get activity doesn't mean that a place is not haunted. Right. It might just be an off night. But sometimes, depending on if you're traveling, you may only get that one night to investigate.
True.
So my thing is, I want the story to be able to carry it, and I've been lucky. I've got stuff every time, that I've gone, at least stuff that was unexplainable. And so with that, we wanted to make the episode, right around between 20 and 30 minutes, something to where people, they could take it. I mean, since it's a web series, obviously if it's on TV, it's going to be longer, and we have enough content that we could make them actually longer. But I wanted somebody, if they're sitting there working, they can actually go and log on to it, when they take that 2:00 break, like, I need to step away for a minute. They can log on, they can watch it. Or if they're like me, I'm extremely busy and rarely have time to really sit and watch a lot of stuff that I want to watch. So I'll sit down and watch while I'm eating. And if I see something that's 20 to 30 minutes, for me, I'm more likely to sit down and watch that instead of thinking that I'm going to have to commit a full hour to something. And so, excuse me, the biggest complaint or criticism that we've actually had about the show has been that people want more. They want them to be longer. So we do have some longer episodes this season. And I think the longest one that we had last season, minus the season finale, which was live, I think it was 30 minutes. But we do have some longer ones this season, but they're jam-packed. It's a challenge to try to pull to put history, story, and investigation in a short period of time. It creates a challenge to do that. So I think we accomplished that pretty well.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And we are at the top of the hour, so you are listening to the Phantasmic Journey podcast with our guest, Miranda Young, and we'll be right back after these messages. Maybe.
by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Paula Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council. Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. And they all have one thing in common. Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard, that's optional. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops, the rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST, F, face drooping, A, arm weakness, S, speech difficulty, T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The storks are bringing me a baby brother! We can do this together!
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't? Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No. Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this!
You will rock this! To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
What are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mom's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting's hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable. But how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST, F, face drooping, A, arm weakness, S, speech difficulty, T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to the Phantasmic Journey podcast. We are coming to you live from the PGH studios. Syndication is brought to you in part by WGKC and Live 365. You can listen live to the broadcast via the Live 365 app for either your Apple or Android phone. And if you choose to use your PC, then go to www.live365.com and search for WGKC. Now, let's get back to our special guest tonight. Miranda Young, creator and star of the hit web series Ghost Bikers Exploration, is an experienced paranormal investigator who has turned her passion for photography, history, and urban exploration, and of course motorcycles, into a unique and popular show that highlights legends, mysteries, and the unexplained. She has released her first season, and it is called Ghost Biker Explorations. Let's bring her back on the show. Welcome back, Miranda.
Thanks, Gavin.
Them commercials are kind of corny, weren't they?
Definitely interesting.
Yeah. Why do you have your hands on your head? Yeah. You're left with bunny ears. Why do you have your hands on your head? That one cracks me up. Oh, my goodness. So, we were talking previously about releasing your show where it's basically around 30 minutes or so. And a lot of people are basically saying, hey, we want more. We want at least 35, 40, 45 minutes for your show. And you said that your season this year, the shows are going to be a lot longer. I mean, how long are they going to be? Like 45 minutes, an hour, or something like that?
I mean, I wouldn't say they're a lot longer. I mean, we're still trying to stick as close as possible to what we have, because for me, it's more about quality content over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
But, sometimes, when you're in a location for 6 hours or a weekend, you've just got so much. So we're still trying to keep it. I think maybe the longest might be 45 minutes.
Okay.
But one of them we had last season, we ended up splitting it into 2 episodes, doing a cliffhanger and splitting it into 2 because we had so much. But what I will probably do, because some of these episodes we have a lot of pretty unexplainable stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're releasing the quality EVPs and recordings, but the other that's if we have too much, it may be released as kind of some extra supplemental type stuff. So we're not going. I doubt we'll go an hour, but
okay.
We're at least at a max going to go probably 45 minutes on some, but we're still trying to keep pretty true to what we had.
Yeah.
Maybe just release more in the off season.
That's true. I know for us that we usually do about an hour, and we've actually been asked. We want to see more stuff. Unfortunately, it's really, like you said, it's difficult to take all the stuff you have captured and cram it into that little bit of watch time. So we came up with an idea for like season 2 and 3 for those episodes. We're going to have the regular hour episode. Actually, it's more like 56, about an hour. And the other, like when we release the DVDs for it, there will be a 2-hour episode on there. Basically, it's going to be kind of put together similar to like a documentary of the location that we just investigated. So you'll have the episode, and then you'll have a documentary of the location that we just did. So that way they can see more of the stuff that we captured.
Yeah, and I think that's great because, the thing is, there's a lot to it. And if you very well, putting the episode together, it's got to be a story.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you have, even if you have your history and your story and everything, the investigation still needs to make sense.
Right.
Unless you're releasing like quick clips or, little snippets at various times, the whole evidence part has to make sense. And so, And if you're at a location for 6 hours, things don't always make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping it, instead of just taking, here's my evidence, here's my pictures, here's this, keeping it in that story format.
Right.
It's hard to get all that in. And I think that having something supplemental to add after the fact is a really cool concept, because my thing is, you can't get enough history about a place, and I think that's what a lot of shows are lacking from the feedback that we've got. They've been more focused just on the paranormal, and while that's great for the paranormal enthusiast, I think that's where our show has actually been pretty successful. Is we've reached a lot of people who wouldn't typically watch paranormal shows. I've had a lot of folks that actually are not very interested in the paranormal that watch the show and actually have a new interest in it. And it's been because we've hit the travel and the historical aspect. This season, there is more travel, and there's more motorcycle pieces in this one. Because this season we were really just kind of testing it out and trying to get our formula. And so the parts that we're having more, obviously the investigations are longer, but we've hit the travel aspect of it and the town, given a little more time to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why we actually dwell more on the history during our show. And have we not gotten dinged on people saying they want to see more investigation stuff instead of history? right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the deal. This is what we do. For like season 1's already done, so all the mistakes are already there, but we've already changed a lot of things in season 2. But the deal is, we go to a location, we'll say, Malvern Manor. And hypothetically, we don't get anything. That's not a problem. We will dwell on the history. We will have interviews. We will share experiences. We will talk to different people that had experiences. We will show videos of inside the place. Of course, there will be B-roll and history and all that stuff all combined to still create an episode for our viewers to watch, even though there was minimal evidence, because Casper does not work on a time clock. He's not going to be like, hey, I'm going to work today so you can take the day off. No, that never happens. There are times when you go to a location and you get diddly squat. But we still want to put that episode with the show. So that's exactly what we'll do. And man, we got hit on that so bad. They're like, no, we want more evidence. We want more investigating. Nobody wants to sit here and get bored watching all the history and interviews and all that stuff. So, and the one thing that I have actually learned, here the rule of thumb, and this happens for TV shows, dramas, comedies, even movies. So I'm using the same methodology for our show. And the deal is, if you can't keep your viewer active and give their full attention to the show within the first 2.5 minutes, then you got nothing.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's why I keep my episodes short, because the average person's attention span is right around 20 minutes.
Yep.
If you can capture them for that long, and so yeah, it's a challenge. And it's one of those things where you're not going to make everybody happy all the time.
Of course not.
Especially when you're dealing with something as targeted as the paranormal, because a history buff, if they're into the history and it's got the paranormal on there, they're going to watch it because into the history. Same, with someone that's into travel, because obviously you're going to locations and new places that people may not be aware of. But your paranormal enthusiast, if you don't have much paranormal, they probably are not going to watch just for the history. So, it's a tough market for sure.
And of course, along that lines is you've got teams that are watching the show, and they're learning about the history of the location, but we didn't get anything. But here's the deal. They're going to watch it because they are learning about that location. And since we didn't get anything, who knows? Maybe when they go, they might.
They may, and I think that's the good part. One of the really cool things about all of this is, I feel like, and one of the reasons that I don't really understand the whole competition aspect of the paranormal, because we can all learn. I mean, everybody, nobody is going to get the same evidence. Everybody has a different technique.
Yep.
And we can all learn from each other, as far as the competition, I don't get it, because, obviously, everybody is seeming to want a show or wanting to catch the Holy Grail. Here's a newsflash. They're not going to catch the Holy Grail. So it's just one of those things. The competition is funny to me, because it's like, you're competing over who has the darkest shadow, the glowiest orb,
right.
The fastest flying dust. I don't understand the whole competition side of it. I feel like if people are open-minded, they can learn a lot from other investigators. And, it's if you don't agree with how I investigate or don't like something that I'm doing, don't be hateful about it. Just change the channel, because there's 500 other investigators, and I guarantee you, if you look and actually watch, you'll find someone that you actually identify with and enjoy watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, this has turned into a dog eats dog world.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the cool thing about it, not only, yes, it has turned into a very competitive, almost hateful environment at times. It's actually created a really cool thing that, it's actually created a rise to documentaries, videographers, people getting out and learning, putting these videos out there. I've never seen so many people that are into taking this stuff and not just sharing the evidence, but trying to put it into videos. And to me, that's a really cool thing. It's kind of created its own little industry subculture beneath the subculture of paranormal. Yeah. So that's been kind of overlooked, the non-para-unity or whatever. Just forget about that. But looking at the positive, it's kind of created a whole little I don't know what the word would be, but just a whole new realm of videographers and storytellers. So that's cool.
Most definitely. 'Cause like you stated, all other investigators have their own methodology, and I mean that's the reason why we put together Truth or Legends in your hometown. Basically, we're showing that para-unity is alive. We have 28 teams in 20 states that are all working together to obtain the same goal, to see if the location is either truly haunted or if it was based on a legend. And all of our viewers are going to see plenty major different methods of each of these teams, because no one team is going to investigate the same way. So, the first 6 episodes of season 1, actually 12 episodes of season 1 of Truth or Legends, you're going to see a lot of variations of investigating. And the reason why we put this together is so that way investigators out there can actually see how all these other people investigate, and possibly maybe they can add that into their methods, because it might work for them. It's a learning process.
Absolutely. Really. I think that's great. And, I really encourage that. As far as, you may not be a fan of investigating as a team, but, there's a lot of cool either teams or other individuals out there to collaborate with. And you can get some really cool stuff and have some really fun times just working with these people and seeing how they do it, how they do things, and just we can always build off of knowledge base that's out there. Like you said, you go and you get something, and it's constantly uncovering pieces of the puzzle. And if people would just put the ego aside and be more open and not so worried about getting the next show, finding the Holy Grail, or being keeping their secret sauce secret, we could really learn and make some strides here.
Yeah, and I mean the viewers, they actually
have some cool videos out of it, if nothing else.
Oh, I know, right? And of course, the viewers, they actually want to watch and learn how the investigators communicate with spirits. So, what do you do to communicate with spirits?
I do different things. For me, I think the best tool that an investigator has is themselves. And I think being, I'm kind of old school. I use, technology and different pieces of equipment. But one of my biggest things is, going in with respect, because, depending on what you believe, these entities were once people, depending on how you look at it, and going in with respect of the location and of the spirits, and just asking questions and listening. I like to sit. Yes, it doesn't really make for the most interesting of TV for the moment,
right?
Just and listening, but you can get some really cool stuff and build from that. I communicate. I always have my recorder and headphones. A lot of the time, I'll listen in real time, and I hear a lot of stuff on those. I use my dowsing rods quite a bit.
Okay.
And like I said, again, it's something I haven't done on my episodes yet, that I may highlight at some point. My drawing, I use that to communicate and identify with the locations. I do that a lot. And of course, that kind of entails sitting, asking questions, and I will set other pieces. If I'm doing a drawing session, for instance, I'll start to see things, and they're not necessarily, it wouldn't be like me sitting there looking at you. I don't see like a full body person. I'll start to see features. And
really?
So what I do, and what I'll do, and it doesn't happen all the time, but what I'll do is I'll set other pieces of equipment up while I'm doing these drawings. And I'll only do them if I feel compelled to draw. And it also depends on the location. I will not do it in an area that is that's rumored to be negative, or if I feel a negative or dark presence, because I don't want to open myself up. I don't actively go, when you go seeking things, you never know what you're going to find. I don't actively go looking for something demonic or negative. But I will set other things up like the flashlights, EDI box, K2 meters. I will set other items up when I get ready to do my drawing, and just talk and communicate. And when I start to see other things, a cool story of doing this drawing, the very first time that I did it and was able to match it up, we were talking about Bear from Octagon Hall. This is probably my second trip, and I had never met Bear. I had just dealt with Billy. And so it was the first night there. It was a Friday night, and I was set up in the slave kitchen. And, in my mind, I went in with the preconceived notion that I would probably be drawing maybe one of the African-American slave women who was the cook or whatever. So I went in with that and sat down, started drawing. I had a K2 meter EDI box and I think a couple flashlights set up. And I started seeing different things as I was sitting there. And again, like I said, I don't see full features or a full put together person. I would start to see things like, maybe high cheekbones or kind eyes, that sort of thing. And so as I would see it, it's almost in a way kind of like if you've heard of automatic writing, people will do that. It's almost like that. It's automatic drawing. And so I'll just start drawing and I'll ask the questions as I'm starting to see these things. And I ask it to confirm on these meters. And what was pretty crazy about it is I start drawing and I start to, I've got the face drawn and I start to see a beard. And I'm seeing like bits of gray in the beard around the chin. And so I'm drawing this and I'm getting it down and I'm not seeing hair, I'm blocking. And so I'm like, are you wearing a hat? And so the K2 meter starts lighting up. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to draw a hat. And it's like a floppy hat. And so as I'm drawing this, it's like, okay, you're a man. And as I was asking, I was saying, give me something that I can match up, that I can identify. And I was thinking maybe with some pictures, at this point I'm kind of thinking either like a Confederate soldier or a, like a slave trader or something. So I end up drawing this man, and everything I would say, the tools that I had there were showing. I mean, it was confirming what I was asking. So that's about 5 o'clock on a Friday morning. Well, at 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning. We'd been there that Friday night, and so we went back to the hotel, slept for a few hours, met back at Octagon Hall at 3 o'clock, and so was setting up. And the team leader, he came in and he's like, "Hey, Miranda, you need to come out here and bring your sketchbook." I go out there and my mouth hit the floor. I met Bear. I drew Bear. Was who I had drawn. And there's a picture. He's got it on his page of me standing there holding it. He's wearing the same hat, the same beard, the same lines in the eyes, everything. And so the only thing I can determine, I've got 2 theories on it. One, either, because he's got a good relationship with, I don't know if good, he's got a relationship with the spirits there, because he's there on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if it was one of those things where it was kind of a doppelganger situation.
Okay.
Or if as I was talking to them, and telling them, look, I want to get something that I can identify with. I don't know if maybe they described him so that I would meet him. I mean, I'd never met him before. So we kind of joke. We both spoke at a conference, or it wasn't a conference, but it was at an event up at the Bel Air House back in May.
Oh, okay.
And we both spoke, and so it was a spiritualist medium convention. It was the first time I'd ever been to one of those, and I took some of my drawings and spoke about this. Like I said, it's not something I talk a whole lot about because it is different, and I'm still trying to really figure it out. But we both spoke, and I ended up showing that picture. And so we often joke about that was how we first met. But I like to use, the different pieces of equipment to kind of verify what I'm doing. I don't rely just on one because, the flashlight, you can debunk that a lot of the time. And some of the other items, if they're not used correctly, but used in conjunction with the others, and then doing what I was doing with the drawing, it kind of turned out to something pretty neat.
Now with the flashlight, did you unscrew the headpiece of it so it's barely touching?
I do have some that we've done that with, but I've actually had the last investigation that I was on. I was using one of those little mini black lights. It was a jail in North Florida, and it was a push button. Yeah. And the battery had nearly died, we thought the battery had died, and so we put it away and had it sitting there. Was taking a break. This like I said, this was earlier this year. I was collaborating with Christy from Soul Sisters, and that flashlight, the push button one, I mean, it was completely off. Battery was supposedly dead. It starts turning on, and it was responding to questions, turning on and off, and we actually caught a shadow figure. We saw it with our eyes and went back. We had laser grids sitting there. We were sitting outside the door and actually saw it walk past and walked over to where the equipment was sitting when the light was going on and off. So, and I've had that happen with laser grids as well. I've had them communicate through laser grids. Just kind of odd stuff because, I know the debate on the flashlights and everything, and it's kind of, either you believe it or you don't. And that falls into, my thought on that is, hey, not every piece of equipment works for everybody. And if you don't believe in it, hey, don't believe in it.
Yeah.
There's people out there on both teams for that.
Yeah, the only way I would actually do the flashlight trick is like we have done it. We did a Ghostology event over at the Riverview Mansion in Metropolis, Illinois. So we do Ghostology for about an hour, hour and a half, and then we actually take them into the mansion and we let them investigate with us. Well, I told them I had a bunch of teenagers. I had like 4 teenage girls, and they're sitting on the couch near the window. And I said, okay, so have you guys seen the flashlight trick? And they're like, yeah, you go ahead and screw the head off it, and it like barely touches. I said, aha, you're right. This flashlight doesn't come apart. You have to physically push the button on the bottom. And this will be the first time I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it on the ground right in front of you. And one of the girls goes, if that thing goes on, I'm going out the window. So I started asking questions. I was like, hey, are we in Maggie's room? Maggie, if you're here, can you let us know by giving us a sign, by possibly turning on that flashlight? And the girl goes, I swear if that thing goes on, I am going to make my own door. All of a sudden it went boom. It popped on and she's like, ah! And the girls are all sitting there laughing and they're like, you did that, didn't you? I picked it up and showed them. They couldn't even take the top off because it's a mag light. It's strictly push button. And they're like, oh, my God. And then we started getting voices on our Devil Jersey box. But it's just hilarious that here I put that flashlight there. It's my first time ever doing it. And it just, whoosh, it lit up and scared the heck out of the teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
It was funny.
That's always a lot of fun whenever when you've got people who are genuinely skeptical or at least, unsure. And then they like to take them and they want to try to take the flashlights apart or look at them, and they see otherwise.
Oh, I know,
It's always pretty cool.
So, taking this same premise of what we just spoke about, because they're kind of with the skepticism and worried about what the paranormal can do and how it can do it and why it's happening. What can you actually tell people who might possibly be afraid of the supernatural?
I mean, there are things out there, and I mean, personally, just from what I've experienced, they can be negative. I think that sometimes things are branded. Sometimes people are too quick to brand things negative. But then I also think that there are a lot of people out there that maybe dabble and mess with things that they maybe shouldn't and don't understand, creating some problems for other people. I feel like the main thing is, don't go into something blind. Do your research. Do your research on the location. Do your research on what other people have experienced. And again, just because I experienced something either negative or aggressive doesn't mean that you will. And go into it with respect. There are some people out there that like to, antagonize the spirits and assert themselves on there, either to get a reaction or just because they want to go in acting like Billy Badass. I don't feel that that's the way to do it. I mean, there are different situations, different circumstances that require a different kind of approach, and sometimes that might be taking a more aggressive approach.
Yeah.
But for me, the main thing is I would say, go in armed with, as much knowledge as you can, but also go in with respect.
Yeah.
That's probably, because there are things, and, when you start dealing with the supernatural, you're dealing with matters of the spirit, in the internal spirit.
Yep.
So I think that I think you do have to be careful, and just be prepared for anything to happen.
Now, the thing about not going in blind, I kind of sort of disagree with that due to the fact that if you do a lot of history on a location before you go, then psychologically you're going to have that claims and the history embedded in your head. And once you go in, you see something that kind of resembles what you did research on, and boom, you're going to think that that's what it is.
You can, but I mean, I think you've misunderstood what I'm saying when I say be prepared and not go in blind. I'm talking about blind to the fact that things can happen.
Okay.
That I'm not talking about necessarily the history of what happened.
Right.
I approach different places different ways. There's some places I want to go in knowing the history, knowing what happened. I don't like to know hot spots because what's a hot spot for you may not be a hot spot for me. Plus, I kind of like to forge my own trail when it comes to that. But what I'm saying is going in with a sense of naivety about the fact that, be prepared and don't go in blind to the fact that, you are invincible, that things, can happen. Be prepared.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying on that. I do think you can. There is the potential at times to create your own haunting with either, psyching yourself up. But, again, I think that's where we have some problems is when you have people going in, conjuring things or trying to speak Latin, and they have no idea what they're doing. That's what I'm saying about don't go in blind when you're going into a place.
Well,
don't go in naive.
Yeah, I excuse me. I have experience having a guest investigator with us sit in the basement of the Monroe house and start speaking Latin. Freaked me out.
Yeah.
That was the most craziest thing ever. So, well, on the same topic of this, have you ever experienced anything that has terrified you at a location?
No, I've not, other than, some real life, human situations, because
squatters.
The truth of the matter is a lot of these places are not necessarily in the best of locations.
Nope.
When you're doing this, but no, as far as spiritual and paranormal, I've not. I've had some strange things and I've felt uneasy, but I've never been, really freaked out or had, sheer terror. I mean, I sleep in a lot of the locations.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I feel like that's one of the most vulnerable states and actually one of the most investigative states for me, because, you've got your guard down. It's kind of like a free investigation at that point. You've been investigating. You can just let your recorders run and go to sleep. So, and things happen around that. But, no, I can't say other than just the human aspect of it that I've ever been really terrified anywhere.
Yeah, we've actually slept at a couple places. We did pass out at the table at Octagon Hall. Passed out in the living room in the Malvern Manor. Our base camp area at Weldon Manor. So, yeah, we've done that. But when I was talking about the thing that terrified you, we were at a place called the Industrial Slaughterhouse. And once again, we had that girl, which is the ghost magnet that gets her butt kicked. We were in the mechanics room. And we had 5-inch deep weld sockets thrown at us. And there was a piston.
Wow.
I have a picture on my Facebook page. I'm holding the piston that hit her in the middle of her back.
Why do you think she attracts?
Well,
do you have any views on that?
My theory is she has gypsy blood. And for some weird reason, the spirit world does not like anybody that has gypsy blood. Because everywhere we've gone, we went to Waverly Hills. She got scratched on the shoulder in the body shoot. Octagon Hall, she got scratched on her arm and went under her Apple Watch and on top of her hand. Industrial Slaughterhouse, she got the 5-inch deep weld sockets thrown, the piston, and two other times she was sitting on the floor, looking at us, and I've got her on thermal, and next thing you know, you see her head slam back into the workbench, like someone just walked up to her, put their palm on her forehead and just pushed back as hard as they could. She got this big old bump in the back of her head, and then she got sucker punched when she was standing up. This is all on video. It just blows my mind that she gets attacked everywhere she goes.
Yeah, that's very, very strange.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so...
Like I said, some people just... I get a lot of activity when I go to places. I've investigated with several people that... and we've even had where I've been with one other person or either two other people, and one of us has gotten stuff on our recorders. We were all together, and the other two people didn't, or equipment starts malfunctioning for one and not the others. I think it all just depends on the person.
Well, also, if say like hypothetically you have 3 recorders, and you got 3 people, 3 recorders. I feel the one that gets the recording is the one where the entity was most closest to.
Oh, it could be. I've also had situations where we were able to triangulate where the entity was at based on having the recorders in the room and just being, closest. We all got the same thing. One of them was just obviously closer and clearer, and same kind of recorders, not, when you've got multiple recorders, they're going to record different. We've, excuse me, had that sort of thing happen. So, it can be who they're closest to, and there's been times that we've caught names of it saying somebody's name on one of the recorders, and this has been the raw recording. Right. So they've not gone in and, messed with it or anything. And it was just something I believe meant for that person.
Okay. Well, we are almost at the end of the show, and right now, this is your opportunity. You get the floor. You can go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find you, your websites, let them know what events that you're going to be at. And if you want, you can go ahead and let them know what your current podcast is going to be on.
Yeah, got a lot going on here in the next little bit. I hope everyone, if you've not watched the first season of the show, there are 5 episodes, and you can watch those on my Facebook page, Ghost Biker Explorations, or on the YouTube channel under the same name. My website, www.ghostbikerexplorations.com. I'm also active on Instagram under Runaway Vixen, and I'm active on Twitter, but just not as active as I need to be. I'm the most active there on Facebook because I like to be able to communicate with the people who are following the show. So I hope you'll catch up on those episodes. You can binge them real quick, and since they are shorter episodes, we are doing a media blitz podcast tour for season 2. I have that list of all the shows that we're doing up on my Facebook page as well as on my website. We're covering everything from paranormal podcast shows to motorcycle shows to, we've got a couple lifestyle comedian shows on there, just kind of general interest. So there's something for everybody on this podcast tour. I have, and there's even a couple terrestrial radio stations, the local Chattanooga Rock 105, where we've got a spot on their drive time morning show.
Oh, wow.
That's coming up in September. So September's going to be really heavy. There's there's a couple weeks I've got a show every night, but we're really blitzing leading up to season 2. There's a big event in Alabama, in Birmingham, with the guys from the Furlough podcast. Club South is having a big meet and greet. We are actually going to release the season 2 trailer on Friday the 13th on their show. And the big event, it's going to be a heavy female motorcycle presence there. It's the Litas from Birmingham are going to be down. We've got car dealership that's coming down and bringing some giveaway items. So it's going to be a big event. The event that we're leading up to that is going to be heavily promoting over the next little bit is actually a month from today. And I've partnered with White Lightning Harley Davidson out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they are hosting me. It's super badass and just really cool. They're hosting me a season 2 early release party, and it's going to be on National Ghost Hunting Day. And we've got a live band, Mother Legacy. There's going to be free food all this is going to be. We've got a schedule posted on there. It's going to be from 11 to 3, and from 11 to 12:45, the band plays. You can come meet and greet, get you some free food, and at 1 o'clock we're going in and we are dropping the first episode of season 2. On that day, people will be able to watch it before it releases on October 1st.
Cool.
And and then we're going to have a little roundtable discussion with myself and my co-producer Josh. And we're going to have giveaways, and it's going to be a red carpet event. So that's going to be happening on September 28th, a month from today. And then I've got several other events. The season 2 is going to drop every Tuesday night during the month of October at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So people will be able to set their clocks and their calendars and watch that. And then there's a couple events in October. Oneida, Tennessee Zombie Fest. Going to be doing that on, I believe that is October. Bear with me just a second. It's mid-October. I think it's that 14th.
Okay.
Let me see. Yes, it's going to be, October 12th. And then going to be in Johnson City at OT Sports Bar, October 19th. We'll be releasing an episode, and then Booze and Brews on October 26th. In Hickory, North Carolina. I'll be doing a dual presentation with my good buddy, Dr. Christy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal. We did a big collaboration at Henry River Mill Village, and so they're letting us, at their big Booze and Brews event, do a presentation. So we got something every Saturday during the month of October. So I know that's a lot of information coming at people, but we got a lot going on.
Yeah, you're definitely not kidding. You have a lot of stuff going on. That's an understatement. Wow.
Yeah, we're really pushing this season 2 because it's going to be it's going to be a really cool season, and again, we've met a lot of people, and the really cool thing about all of this is that I feel like with this podcast and media blitz tour, that it's really introducing a lot of folks to a lot of different really cool shows that's out there. So out of these at least 20 shows that we're doing, people will at least be able to find something. They might find them a new favorite show that they like. And I've just really enjoyed meeting people at these events and being able to kind of open their eyes to the paranormal. I don't ever try to convince anyone that it's there. get the evidence that I find unexplainable and present it and say, hey, you decide. And, I've met some really cool bikers and really cool paranormal investigators in the process, and hoping that a lot of folks will come out to the event in 2 weeks in Birmingham and in a month at White Lightning and Harley.
Cool. How many episodes are going to be in season 2?
It's kind of under debate right now, but there's at least going to be 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether I release something kind of special after the season is up, that, we'll wait and see, or it may release during the season, but at least 5.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. We spent 2 hours with Miranda Young, the creator and star of the hit web series Ghost Biker Explorations. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to her show on my Facebook page, so you'll be able to see it. Also, when I put up the replay for those that missed the show, you'll be able to see the link to go check out her show. And I also do have a post from her that has all of her podcasts for her podcast tour. And, hey, we do appreciate you being on the show tonight. Paula passed out, unfortunately. She gone.
That's all right. That's all right. I hope she gets to feeling better. And again, I appreciate you having me on. It's always great to chat with fellow paranormal investigators and videographers. I've really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you.
Hey, not a problem. Good luck with season 2. And if we're in and around the area on September 28th, I'm not really sure, but if we are, we'll definitely try to make it on out to Chattanooga to check that out over at the Harley-Davidson place.
Awesome. I'd love it if you did. We're saying, all bikes are welcome. I've had people contact and say, hey, I ride a Kawasaki. Is it okay? Since it's at a Harley place, we say all bikes welcome, all paranormal investigators, and all history enthusiasts.
Well, not like I'm going to show up in a 10-speed. Well, maybe.
Hey, you don't have to ride a bike to go, but you might want one after you leave.
There you
go. Yeah, it's going to be a really cool event. It's something totally different than what we've done before, and I'm just thrilled and humbled and honored that Harley is doing that for me. I think that's just way cool.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, Dan. Well, I'll go on and let you go. You have yourself a great rest of the evening, and we'll hopefully have you back on the show probably after season 2 had been released.
Absolutely. I would love that, Gavin.
All right, not a problem. You have yourself a good night.
You do the same.
Goodbye.
I'm
going to try. Bye. All right, folks, there you go. We got to spend 2 hours talking to Miranda Young. And I'm going to go ahead and put all the links on up. I'm going to put more information about the Season 2 release party, the meet and greet at the Harley-Davidson location in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is on September 28th. And if other dates that I'm going to go ahead and put on the Facebook page as well. And I hope you all enjoyed the show. Next week, we are going to be joined by David Glidden, and we're possibly going to go ahead and talk to him about his 2 documentaries. I believe it's called Into the Light and Into the Light 2. So stay tuned for next week, and everybody have yourself a great rest of the evening.
Phantasmic Journey Podcast is brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Philip Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon.